All praises to the Most High Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, double honors to the elders and apostles of GMS who rule well. Shalom to the hopeful elect. Now, this is a 12 tribes of Israel chart that's commonly seen in the GMS camps. And if you look at the top here, it says Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, which are commonly referred to as the Jews in the Southern Kingdom. And you can see from the sign that the West Indians, are the Benjamites. And yeah, I just wanted to talk about something that I saw. Yeah, they're saying women in Trinidad are being raped and murdered, and it's going unnoticed. Now, this is Benjamin, by the 12 charts, which is I'm really trying to say, that chart must be true because that's the spirit of Benjamin when you look into the scriptures. It says, "Rest in peace," our sisters or whatever, and she's coming in that feminine spirit. And if you look at her, she's a damn hot mess. And it says, when it goes into the curses of Deuteronomy, it talks about how, the women of the tribes are going to be unshapely. They're going to lose their shape in their hair. And if that's not a sign of her being, a Jake, I don't know what is. I'm not going to get onto it at the moment, but just going through this post. So I'm from this country, and let me tell you, one man had 70 plus charges of sexual assault, kidnapping, etc. His case got thrown out because the relevant authorities stopped showing up to the court hearings. Rest in peace to our fallen sisters. Again, some of the others is happening all over the West Indies, Jamaica, Trinidad, Guyana, etc. It's horrible. The men are killing the females of all ages. And this woman's been kidnapped, but she might be one of those Indians that live on the land. She could be a Jake, I don't know. But there's all kinds of people, in the West Indies and in Jamaica. Now, this woman was on her way home from work at a magistrate's court in Trinidad. She and her co-worker took a taxi home, and her co-worker was dropped off, and she was kidnapped. When her father called her phone, a man picked up and threatened to cut her ears off if he did not receive a ransom. The country went into a hyper-vigilant mode, searching for her everywhere with a 50K, I don't know if that's Jamaican dollars. A prominent businessman offered 400K for a safe return. Today, her body was found dead, decomposing, and face unrecognizable. She was identified by whatever clothes remained on her, which was her underwear, before she was killed and flung down a precipice. Her name was Andrea Barrett. She might be, Elamite. They killed her for no good reason. For being a woman, for having to need public transport to go home, for wanting to act on their urges and not being able to live with the shame. Now, let's go into that scripture. And this is the time we're coming into. This is Isaiah 32:9. Rise up, ye women that are at ease, hear my voice, ye careless daughters, give ear unto my speech. Many days and years shall ye be troubled, ye careless women, for the vintage shall fail, the gathering shall not come. Tremble, ye women that are at ease, be troubled, ye careless ones, strip you, and make you bare, and gird sackcloth upon your loins. They shall lament for the teats, for the pleasant fields, for the fruitful vine. And this is the time we're coming into. Because these women, are always talking about how they don't need men, but then when this kind of judgment befalls them, they're always talking about how they need men to protect them from other men, which just shows you that a man is a covering of protection for a woman. But these women don't perceive that. They want the protection from the government, which is made up of men anyway. So it just goes to show the hypocrisy of the woman in society. And if you look into Judges here, I'm going to start chapter 19. I'm just going to skim through it. And it came to pass in those days there was no king in Israel, and there was a certain Levite sojourning on the side of Mount Ephraim, who took to him a concubine out of Bethlehem, Judah. And his concubine played a whore against him, and went away from him unto her father's house to Bethlehem, Judah, and was there 4 whole months. Now, she went away from him. When you leave your husband, in any capacity, because you're supposed to be with your man. When you like this, I'm just gonna read this here quick. It says, in 25 years of marriage, my mom has woken up every day to make breakfast for my father before he goes to work, even on days she doesn't like him very much. Now that's a real wife. This woman, on the other hand, this woman who's smiling in this picture, she plays the whore. And this is that whore spirit in women that's gonna get sucked out of them, you know. This is she might be a Jake, bugged out, Uzu, Nicole, whatever. My mum doesn't like when my mum doesn't like my dad very much at the moment. She goes on a vacation by herself. Now she's playing the whore, even though she's got her head covered. Is a very whorish attitude to have when you know you're not getting along with your partner, to then leave and go on holiday, and who knows what she's doing. And she's literally putting herself in a situation where she doesn't have any protection, because these women, you know, are very prideful in this society. They feel like they can do whatever they want with no repercussion. But these times when a man grabs you, you're literally so physically weak, you're not able to fight against them. If they really wanted to hurt you, they could. You know, you need firearms. You're like Esau. You know, you're not physically able to do anything without weapons, and you're relying on another man's, you know, blessing to be able to protect yourself. Anyway, and her husband arose and went after her to speak friendly unto her and to bring her back, having a servant with him and a couple of asses. She brought him into her father's house, and when her father, the damsel, saw him, he rejoiced to meet him. Now, I'm gonna go down here. And basically they were going around, and I think it was the sons of Belial. Yeah, we'll start here. Now, as they were making their hearts merry, because she was, you know, he was chilling with her dad or whatever, and they were drinking because he told them to stay and tarry a while. Behold, the men of the city, certain sons of Belial, sounds like, you know, Baal, beset the house round about and beat at the door and spake to the master of the house, the old man, saying, bring forth the man that came into thine house, that we may know him. And this is kind of like how Lot was in Sodom and Gomorrah, and the angels, you know, came to tarry in his house. And, you know, the men of the city came and they wanted to know the angels, which is pure wickedness. And, you know, these sons of Belial, they're Benjamites in that same spirit. And the man, the master of the house, went unto them and said unto them, nay, my brethren, nay, I pray you, do not do so wickedly, seeing that this man is come into mine house. Do not do this folly, which is the same thing that Lot said, you know, which just shows you that things repeat. And, you know, it's bad to rape a woman, but it's even worse, you know, to rape a man, because not only are you committing that heinous act, you're committing sodomy as well. Behold, here is my daughter, a maiden and his concubine. Them I will bring out and humble ye them, and do with them that seemeth good unto you. But unto this man do not so a vile thing. But the man would not hearken to him. So the man took his concubine and brought her forth unto them, you know, which was his daughter, and they knew her. They basically raped her and abused her all the night until the morning. And when the day began to spring, they let her go. Then came the woman in the dawn of the day and fell down at the door of the man's house where her lord was, which is her husband, because women had respect back in the day. They used to call their husband their lords till it was light. And the Lord rose up in the morning and opened the doors of the house and went out to go his way. And behold, a woman, his concubine, was fallen down at the door of the house, and her hands were upon the threshold. And he said unto her, up, let us be going. But none answered. Then the man took her upon an ass, and the man rose up and gat him unto his place. And when he was come into his house, he took a knife and laid hold on his concubine and divided her together with her bones into 12 pieces and sent her into all the coasts of Israel. And it was so that all that saw it said, there was no such deed done nor seen from that day that the children of Israel came up out of the land of Egypt unto this day. Consider of it, take advice, and speak your minds, because that was a foul thing. And ultimately, you know, all of Israel, you know, gathered together to fight against the judge, you know, the children of Benjamin. And I'm going to start Judges verse 3 here. Now the children of Benjamin heard that the children of Israel were going up to Mizpah. Then said the children of Israel, tell us, how was this wickedness? So they basically inquired as to why they did that. And the Levite, the husband of the woman that was slain, answered and said, I came into Gibeah that belongeth to Benjamin, I and my concubine to lodge, and the men of Gibeah rose against me and beset the house round about upon me by night, and thought to have slain me and my concubine have they forced that she is dead. They basically raped her until she died. And I took my concubine, cut her into pieces, and sent her throughout all the country of the inheritance of Israel, for they have committed lewdness and folly in Israel. So, when you go through it, it shows how, all of Israel basically gathered together, and fought against Israel and fought against Benjamin and slew them to the point where, they weren't able to replenish themselves. And what they started doing was they started kidnapping, daughters of Israel and raping them to the point where they made a pact that they would take the women that were dancing and they would make wives for them. It says here, how shall we do for wives for them that remain, seeing as we have sworn by our Lord that we will not give them of our daughters to wives? Because all of Israel was like, yo, basically you lot are just vile. We're not going to give our daughters to you to wife. So obviously they went down. And, I'm just going to finish off in this point. In those days, there was no king in Israel. Every man did that which was right in his own eyes. And we're back in those days right now because there's no king over Israel. So everybody just does whatever they want. And if you look into here, resorts in Jamaica are facing a historic sexual assault problem. So that's that spirit of Benjamin, where they just do whatever the hell they want with women, which is just, lewdness and folly. And I remember even my ex said she was going, she was going to Jamaica or whatever, and I laugh because I know how Benjamin men are like, and she's, she's actually a Benjamite, and she tells me how much she hates how they're so aggressive towards women. And I'm thinking to myself, you want to go there and live by yourself? And I laughed and I said, they're going to rape you till you die. And that was in the spirit because, I didn't even know these stories back then, but I know Benjamin's spirit. You know exactly what they're about. If you look in the rape convictions of Jamaica, it says that 21.3% out of 100,000 people, are raped. And this is for the UK in 2019, 1,500 cases. And if you look in the rape statistics of Jamaica, it's 400, say 500, in 2019. And it's like 1,500 in the UK. This is just suspects or whatever. Conviction is different. I think it goes up to like 55,000 cases they reported. And if you look at the Jamaican population, it's like 3 million. UK is like 66 million. So the UK is about 20 times the size of Jamaica. But when you extrapolate, these statistics, it works out to about 80,000. So if they had a population as big as the UK, they'd have 80,000 cases of rape in a year, which just shows you how actually bad it is, and even that's just, how these statistics are skewed because certain women that are raped, they don't even come forward. But it just shows you that there's a big rape problem in Jamaica, and all the Benjamite women that are there, they have this attitude about them. But, that place is going to have a real big problem as society begins to collapse. Because as bad it is to say, a lot of women are going to be getting raped when society does hit the fan, and you can see it in all these movies like what's it called, Mad Max, and all of this other stuff. Even in the Book of Eli, that woman that was with him, the little white woman, she was working as a prostitute, which is what women resort to when they're in those situations. Which it says, in those days, several women shall go to one man, and basically, let's get that. Several women shall lay hold of one man. Because at the end of the day, these women need to understand, that a man is your covering. And in that day, 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, we will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by thy name to take away our reproach. If we look into the word reproach, an expression of rebuke or disapproval, the act or action or reproaching or disapproving was beyond reproach, a cause or occasion of blame, discredit or disgrace. Discredit, disgrace, obsolete, one subjected to censure or scorn, So basically take away our disgrace, because you know, a woman without a man as a covering is disgraceful, you know, in the same way that a woman's meant to have a veil over her head and have her head covered, you know, because it's disgraceful for a woman to actually bear a head. But this society is all messed up, man. You know, yeah, that's pretty much it. All praises to the Most High, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, double honors to the elders, and apostles of Jesus who rule well. Shalom to the elect.